Hi there, and welcome to Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Kathryn. I have been following this story, and I haven't had time to come on and go live, but I wanted to share some of it with you and get your feedback because I am clearly going down this rabbit hole along with quite a few other people. There is a 41-year-old man by the name of Dustin McKissen. And he believes his father is this outrageous crime committing serial killer. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about what Dustin has said about his dad. Let's just do a little clip here and I will share my screen. I will share the audio, but let's look at Dustin's YouTube channel real quick. So here's Dustin's YouTube channel, and happy Father's Day to a serial killer. Hello, everyone. Right. So that was put up 3 days ago, and he has this big long story, and we'll start part of it, but I'm not gonna play the whole thing. You can go watch it, but let me just start part of it for you. So 1 second, back up and play.
Hello, everyone. I pre-apologize for the camera work here, but my name is Dustin McKissen. I'm 41 years old. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. My father's name is David Arwen McKissen. He was born April 16th, 1956. He's likely living in the desert west of Phoenix or near Conway, Arkansas, or somewhere near Ogden, Utah. He has family in all of those areas. There's a lot of information here, so bear with me as I read the script before we do a little show and tell. In 2006, my father told me that I'd once had a sister. I didn't know that. And after searching for my sister for several years, I concluded in 2019 that she was likely murdered or harmed by my father and mother and left in a landfill in Rupert, Idaho in 1989.
Now, I'm going to pause that for a second because this is interesting. He later, as I'm going down these rabbit holes, he later says that his father told his wife this. So he's just cutting corners. I don't know that about this sister. He's assuming that this is a missing sister, but his story gets weirder. So hang on, let's go back.
My mother passed away in 2014. In addition to that, we discovered a pattern of missing or murdered people that seemed to follow my father as he traveled throughout the Western United States in the 1970s and 1980s, as well as in the rural area south of Edmonton, Alberta between 2009 and 2019, when my father spent a significant amount of time in Canada. In addition to these crimes, we are certain that my father played a large role in the 2018 death of my father-in-law, Mark Malenga. Though Mark's death was ruled a suicide, a kitchen knife was found 5 inches deep in his neck and twisted. Mark's injuries were significant enough that it fractured his C5 and C6 vertebrae. Shortly after finding my father-in-law in their garage, my mother-in-law's pastor called to tell me that my father was not permitted at his funeral due to a history between him and my in-laws. The nature.
Okay, so now we got father, people are missing from the 70s on near his father. His father-in-law has a suicide with the knife in his neck, and Dustin believes that it was his own father, David McKissen, that did this. Now, his story gets a little bit more and more involved, and I want to show you what he said he found. He says he found in a camper of some sort. He ripped a hole with his bare hands and he found these items, a bunch of phones and stuff. So let's get to that part. I'll show you that.
Of that history will not be shared here, but we are convinced his death was not a suicide. And to be clear, my pastor, or their pastor, didn't find him in the garage. My mother-in-law did, and she relayed this message. Or he was relocated up near us in a camp. I have a huge amount of respect for law enforcement, and in the recent past, I've met and worked with fantastic detectives in Minidoka County, Idaho, and the Quincy, California area. Removed.
Okay, so
family keepsakes work.
Facebook
page. Inside, I found inside the trailer. Last night, I located his trailer, and in the middle of the night, using my bare hands, I ripped a hole in the exterior wall large enough for me to fit through. I'm very proud of that. you can't detect that in my voice, I am very, very proud of that. You can find out more information and the visuals on that on my Facebook page. Inside the trailer, I found a black bag that was stuffed inside of a fuller garbage bag. The contents of the smaller black bag are extremely troubling, and that is what I'm here to share. So bear with me as I move the camera and go through these items quickly. The totality of everything found in the black bag is laid out here. It includes my father's teeth. My father had all of his teeth removed when he was in his early 20s. These are his teeth. They're unbroken. They are good. In 2010, my father claimed he broke a tooth out and replaced it with the tooth of a dead coyote. I'm not sure if that's true, but it does show that he was pretty frugal about his teeth. And for him to throw them away, I find it fairly meaningful. His appearance changes pretty dramatically without his teeth. In the black bag, we found an athletic cup. We found 8 cell phones, beginning with an AirTouch cellular I recognize from the mid-90s, spanning all the way to a more recent smartphone. Most of these phones, with the exception of the one from the 1990s, are likely burner phones. My dad changed his phone number frequently and his phones frequently. Inside the black bag, we found a travel book about Idaho. My family has an extensive history in Idaho, in addition to the case in 1989 known as Baby X. Between 1983 and 1987, my parents had multiple fires in 2 houses on the same street in Rupert, Idaho. My mom was charged at one point with felony first-degree arson. They couldn't proceed with the case because the witness and the investigator moved away and they could not locate them again. But we have an extensive history in Idaho, and my father had the travel book in the black bag. My father had a book of the Western United States, map of the Western United States. My father traveled extensively in the West, including spending a significant amount of time in Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and outside of the West, in Missouri and Florida. We discovered he had a secret house in Florida in the end of the 90s that I was not aware of. So he frequently travels. This map of the Western United States. In the black bag was a pocketbook on how to learn Arabic quickly. In 1992, my father somewhat inexplicably got a job as a technical advisor to a manufacturing company. That job required him to travel around the world. In his first international trip to Aqaba, Jordan in 1993, he went there. He took a side trip over to Cairo, Egypt. This trip is extensively photographed and date stamped. During that trip, my father visited the Egyptian Museum. During that trip, on March 15th, 1993, my father took several photos of buses. On March 16th, 1993, he photographed himself inside of the museum and photographed a bus terminal and buses at the museum. Later that day, an explosive device went off that damaged 4 of those buses. So again, we have those photos, but inside this black bag was a book on learning Arabic quickly. Inside the black bag were 6 medical textbooks. My father is not doctor or nurse, but these were in there, along with boxes, which include the serial numbers for some of these phones. So again, a book on how to speak Arabic quickly, medical textbooks, boxes related to these phones, a map of the Western United States, a book about Idaho, 8 cell phones spanning roughly 30 years, an athletic protective cup, and his teeth. I'm going to return the phone here and go ahead and conclude this video. I'm sorry for the camera work.
So, all right, cell phones were spanning 30 years. I don't think so. Don't think we had cell phones 30 years ago, but we did have cell phones 20-ish years ago. They do look to me that they were maybe phones because the last one is a smartphone. They look like old to new, sort of. So, I probably have gone through that many cell phones in the last 20 years as well, if not more. But I throw stuff away. Now, his father supposedly is a meth head, and we know how meth heads stockpile crap and stuff. So, I'm going down 2 different directions with this. If his father's a meth head, I don't think he could be completely a careful, diligent serial killer. They get messy. Meth heads are jacked up. I talk to them at my day job often, and their stories are always rattly and all over the place. And I've actually experienced having a roommate that was one for a very brief period of time, and he was digging through people's garbage and bringing stuff home and thinking it was the greatest treasures in the world. It was really bizarre. So not sure about how sophisticated a meth head is going to be as a serial killer. However, I'm trying to keep an open mind on this whole thing. Now, I was totally invested in this story, but I did find out that Dustin is an actual author. He writes books. Keep that in mind. I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Chrome tab. 1 second. Amazon. Dustin McKissen. So here is his book, The Poor and the Haunted. Was looks like released October 31st. Interesting. Halloween in 2019. This book, as a it's a short book. It's only 150 something pages from what I'm understanding, but it goes into, as a child, Jimmy Lansford and his sister Kelly suffered crushing poverty and their father's unexplained and frightening suicide and their mother's constant abuse and cruelty. Having grown to be a successful adult, Jimmy must contend with the sudden reemergence of memories from his childhood in Oklahoma, unexplainable events occurred inside his own home. It's more than worse. It has the presence to derive to take Jimmy. So that's one of his books, right? And it looks like, hopefully that's sharing with you guys as well. But this, The Best Vampire You Can Be, The Civil War at Home, and so he is an author, and he's a writer and an author. So we got to keep that in mind too with this whole thing. Let me share this. We're going to share Facebook, share screen. There's system audio, Chrome tab. Okay, so here is something he posted with a big long explanation about what this is. He says tomorrow he's going to share a comprehensive timeline on his father and mother's life, as well as the first video where they make their case that his father is everything he said. Now, this is, again, where he's talking about this Cairo incident. Apparently, this is his father in Cairo with some unknown person in 1993. This is where he's talking about, this is outside the Egyptian Museum on March 16th, 1993. And this is where he's talking about, I don't have my double screen. Sorry, guys. So I'm trying to pop around here. These buses that supposedly is photographing. So there's a pyramid there, and this bus supposedly is what there was a bus explosion, I guess, during this period of time. Also, this is his traveling companion, Brad Jones. Apparently, he died. Now, I don't think this is anything. It sounds like he had an aortic dissection, so probably can't do that. And then supposedly this is the house they lived in outside of Logan, Utah in the summer of '89. It existed largely in the same condition when we lived in it. Apparently he got in there somehow, and it has a dragon on the wall. Let me go back. Then people have said, wow, just wow, I wish you and your family all the best. I'm sorry for your childhood. Then somebody messaged his brother, because supposedly he has this brother named Cody, and they messaged his brother and they said, really weird question, but is this your baby picture? And he said, my brother, talking about Dustin, is a deeply troubled individual. Don't read things you read on Facebook. Also, do not contact me again. So Cody is very unimpressed with what his brother is doing, and brother's name Cody Ryan McKissen. Patricia Wendy Pengrace, I think that's his, somebody last seen June 8th, reported missing July 8th, 2019. Dave McKissen, involvement in methamphetamine and drugs, something my father has long experienced. And last ATM purchased June 5th at Real Canadian Superstore in Red Deer. Next activity, June 17th in Rimbley. So he's not naming these people, I guess, here that are missing and where his father was in the time that these people went missing. Houston Omiso, found deceased under suspicious circumstances, last seen June 21st, 2019. David McKissen, he said, this child has a resemblance to my son. Part of why we banned our father from my home in 2016 is that he has two very, very troubling incidents with my son, one of which involved him watching my son change. Last activity in June 19, ATM withdrawal in Wembley. Okay, so this is what somebody's calling about his timeline. I know this is super confusing, you guys. This is like a major crazy rabbit hole. Mom, I'm helping you go down it. This somebody has here. Let me make sure there's still going down this rabbit hole together. Totally disorganized because it's just it's leading into 1,000 different directions. And here's a picture. Daiquiris Unlimited. This is supposedly his father. Somebody asked, what makes you believe your father is not in the U.S.? There's lots of pictures here. Your brother has a relationship with them. I see one of your brother's cars in these photos. I hope Cody blasts you soon. Somebody else is saying there's so many holes in Dusty's story. The truth will prevail. So people are starting to wonder what in the heck is going on here. They're saying that Dusty is a crock of baloney. His brother said he's sick in the head. So like I showed you, his brother said, don't contact me again to somebody. Check out this page I found. It tagged his brother's Instagram. Don't know what all this is or what this is all about or what we're looking at. Again, rabbit hole. We are just going down them, just going down them. Okay, let me get rid of that. Okay. Then the dentures in the trailer. They're saying, Dustin, could you provide some clarity about the dentures you found in the trailer in Arizona? In your $50,000 challenge video, you show a set of dentures and you say he spit them out a year ago after you disseminated the flyers of what he's done to you and your family. And you've seen all those teeth in Facebook posts. Are these two separate sets of dentures? So just to go back, Dustin had earlier today posted another video. People keep posting this. This is my oh, look, people are replying. But I said, if you scroll through his brother's pictures on Facebook and look at the comments, they seem to have plenty of shared memories, good ones growing up. And I totally believed him till joining a group about this and finding all this stuff others have dug up. What's the group? Oh my God, I want to join that group. McKissen Family Mysteries. So there's another group that I would like to join. We will join. I will join. People have dug up so much, even old articles. The so-called twin is his cousin. So he's saying he has this twin with this malformed hand that looks burned. He has pictures. He said they've been authenticated, but now people are finding out this twin, it does not exist. It's his cousin, not his twin. And it's your cousin Levi, not your twin. You've written about him before. It's your cousin Levi in this picture. So he's sharing these pictures, talking about his twin, saying he doesn't have these memories of this twin, but then he thinks that him and his twin were swapped out. And he had a feeding tube. He was being fed through a tube or something like that. So, why does your little brother write so highly of your life as kids? Something not adding up. So yes, so his brother Cody actually has very much, and when you go back, when when you go back into Cody's Cody's Facebook, you see them like really bonding as adults in the last decade. Somebody said, I've never seen a serial killer go from serial homicide to mass homicide or attempt to do that. If so, your dad is probably one of the most unique serial killers of all time, probably most unpredictable. If his MO changes that drastically. So people are getting really, really, really like super. Isn't the use civic storytelling? And then there's a murder called the Ketty Cabin murders. And he's thinking his father has something to do with that. Although they are saying that there's been DNA found and he wasn't even involved with that. So I'm just going to put this out there right now to you guys. Do you want me to continue and like go through this story and completely, try to go through it and see if we believe it or want to debunk it? Up to you. Leave it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And if you're new here, just go ahead and subscribe because I love going down rabbit holes. It's kind of what I do. Dustin says, since her death, my brother and I have chosen to focus on the positive, and there's a lot of positive to focus on. When we were growing up, my mom was a great mom. Literally, she was one of the best. No matter how poor we were, she always had enough change in her purse to buy me a comic book, and that created a love of reading that made me who and what I am today. My mom also had a soft spot for the mangy friends my brother and I brought home, and she was often like another mom to kids who weren't as lucky as my brother and I were. In a way that every family its own private universe. My mom was the defining presence in our universe, and she made childhood that was touched at times extreme poverty actually pretty wonderful. So he's talking very highly of his mother here. But as you continue to follow this story, he does not. He flat out says that she was a terrible person, that she was an arsonist. There was a fire at some point, and I did see an article about that. I don't think anything came of that. People are tagging Kendall Ray in this story, but Kendall Ray isn't going to take this on because there's just too many holes in it. Kendall Ray wants real facts and investigations and, real things. This must be a new picture. Don't know what that's all about. So let me get here still. I want to take you to his brother, Cody's Facebook real quick before there isn't one anymore, because people are going to start locking their stuff up. I have a feeling on this one, because especially if they think that this is just wackadoodle stuff going on here. So let me go back to you guys and unshare so I can go to Cody's. I'm only sharing that. It's kind of a bummer because if I share in the whole tab, we could go from place to place, but I don't like to do that because then other things pop up that are my private computer. I don't want, to share that with all of you, because who knows what messages and stuff might come up that have anything to do with this or my channel, but just my private stuff. So I'm going to go find Cody real quick. Let me come back over here and share my screen again. Share screen. And this time we're going to share a Chrome tab of Cody. So this is Cody who said, don't contact me again. This is his brother, Cody, and his wife. I guess there's some. So as I went through photos on here, there is, let me get pretty far down because they seem not to have a relationship at this point. At some point, their relationship will go silent. But back a few years ago, they did have seemed like a very close relationship and spoke fondly of their memories as kids growing up. I'm getting to it here. Make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, you are. This is totally raw, unedited. Okay, so this is their mother. A year ago, my mom passed away. That day, everyone who knew her lost so much. She was a great mom and a friend. I will always miss football and the movies. Thank you for raising us to be independent and not afraid to follow our dreams. You may be gone, but you will never be forgotten. He tags Dustin in it. Somebody says, Peggy is one of my dearest friends. I wish I could have seen her one last time. Rest in peace, dear friend. Thinking of you today, Cody. Your mom was a cool lady. You guys were so lucky to have her as your mom. I'm sorry she left this world so young. I'm praying for you, Cody, this week. So if you watch Dustin's video, he basically says his mom is a terrible person. There's another one that Cody had posted, breaking in the new glove, Dustin and Jason. Remember the days when we would play baseball all day till it was too dark? And Dustin says, nice. Are you in a league? And I do remember those days. No, just mess around, play catch. So they're back here. They are, very close. And Dustin McKissen, Peggy McKissen rocked mullet worthy of modern day mocking. So he's tagging her before she was passed away. And she has 2 Facebooks, and we'll go to her in a minute as well, their mom. But Cody, again, is saying to people, don't contact me again. My brother is a very unstable individual. Or I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly how it was worded. So then, let me find Peggy. Here's Peggy McKissen. Let's see if you guys are still sharing with you, because I don't know how they. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let me go back to Facebook. I have too many tabs open. April 20th, 2014. This is Dustin's wife in Edmondson, Missouri, where I guess Peggy, the mom, had lived. This was a really big week in Dustin and I's life journey. We couldn't have gone without with little help from our friends. So she passed away at that point. Now, people are saying you will be missed. Love you guys. Dustin, thank you. Chris, we love you. Thanks for coming. You're welcome. Glad I got to see you. And then Megan, Dustin's wife, Peggy, you did so many things right as a mom. I really appreciate what you put into that role. You raised some really hardworking, loving, good men who know what really counts. Thank you for the comic books, gym weights, and educational encouragement you gave Dustin. They continue to shape my life each day. You were the least judgmental person I know. I value that trait in you. You were loyal and kind. I hope that I can be those things each day. I know this wasn't easy for you. I hope with every part of me, the next existence brings you peace and happiness, Dustin. So, mommy, we love you. You're wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And now, fast forward to 2022, Dustin's writing a book and saying things like, my mother was a terrible person. My dad's a serial killer. It's all just very bizarre, very bizarre. Peggy, it seemed like a normal grandma. She seems very invested. People ask her how she's doing, how her family's doing. And she says, my kids are great. The only 2 kids she mentions are Dusty and Cody. And now Dustin is coming forward telling people that he had a sister that was murdered by his father, that was found somewhere in the hills, that he has a twin brother that he was switched out from, and he was held in captivity from his parents. I mean, you guys, this is just so bizarre, but there's so many holes in this freaking story that I don't know what to believe. At first I thought, wow, this guy has a story of the century. And now I think, oh, this guy wants to sell his books. I don't know what to believe. I know he has a lot of things, and he's going to be putting out more. This is his wife, Megan. And it's just very strange. But he's saying he's connected to these other murders and these serial killers. And there's other YouTube channels out there that are saying that David, the father, is a serial killer and killed all these indigenous women. I mean, it's just really, really, really crazy. Megan saying to her mother-in-law, Happy Mother's Day. I haven't even gotten as far as to look at Megan's father's death. I haven't even gotten there yet. So then, let me go back to Dusty and show you make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's go back to Dusty and let me show you what he posted today, which I think it's a $50,000 challenge. He started a GoFundMe. Now, this is when I got very curious and suspicious that something bizarre is going on here. Because why does he need a GoFundMe? Let's watch a piece of that, okay? Let me make sure I'm still sharing. I think I'm still sharing the audio. Let me stop real quick to make sure, and I will do it again just so that we can make sure we're sharing the audio, because I don't want to play this and you not hear it. Share screen, Chrome tab, and Dustin McKissen. Share audio. Okay. So let's watch this first, part of this for a second anyway. I'm going to start it from here.
And then we will go into more detail about that in future videos, as well as a pattern of disappearances that followed my father around the Western United States and Western Canada from 1976 to about 2019. We are currently working with detectives on several of those cases, but life is not a CSI episode. I know many of you have asked about DNA in the comments. Yes, I have submitted my DNA to detectives in California, a fantastic set of detectives working on a quadruple homicide there. Many of you know which homicide I'm referring to. But I have photos of my dad molesting some family members of mine that I care about deeply. I will not share those online, but in those photos, he's wearing a condom. We are talking about an extraordinarily careful individual, as well as an extraordinarily intelligent person. You don't get away with serial murders for 40 years, leaving your DNA everywhere. So we are working on that, but those cases are old, difficult to solve, and police will be the first to tell you the public has a far greater expectation around DNA than actually exists. So we are working on that. In my raid on his trailer, I did pull material that would have DNA on.
Now, I don't believe that. They are solving cases from back in the 70s of murders, they save parts of people's DNA. They've been able to go from family members and go backwards all the way down the line to find that. I don't agree with him at all. I think DNA has become the most amazing thing, and so many cases, totally cold cases, have been solved by that, where they don't even have the family members, that they go into the banks from Ancestry DNA or 23andMe, and they find somebody that's super far away related, and they narrow it down. So for him to say he submitted his DNA, and then to say that the police are not appropriate, are telling the public has too much expectation with DNA, I completely disagree with that. I might be wrong, but I completely disagree. Okay, we'll continue.
On it, but we really have to look at, we really had to be aggressive in other ways, because it's just simply not as simple as that. Which brings me to the point of this video. In the coming weeks, you'll get to know my family, the family Megan and I created, the family I'm most proud of really well. And I want that story to be as much about us, or more about us, than it is about my father and my potential twin brother and whatever they may be responsible for. We believe, in fact, the two of them have recently traveled to Costa Rica. We received a call today that there had been an attempt to steal our identity. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it was tied to someone in Costa Rica. My dad has mentioned wanting to travel with an unknown individual to Costa Rica, so we believe that that may be them. But the point here is, in the coming weeks, we will present the evidence we've collected against my father in a series of videos. The Ketty Cabin murders, the discarding of a mutilated baby girl in Idaho landfill in 1989. That's infinitely believed is one of my siblings that were impacted by my father and my mother, who herself was a serial arsonist, but she passed away in 2014. We will talk about that death, the violent death of my father-in-law in 2018, the murder and disappearances of several individuals in Canada in 2010, my father's mysterious presence at a bombing in Cairo, Egypt in 1993, and my captivity and the potential existence of my twin brother. That will all be reviewed. We are going to, in essence, conduct a trial. And when the prosecution rests, I will offer my father and or my twin brother a deal. I recently sold a rental property in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I have $50,000 in the bank. At the conclusion of the prosecution, I will put up my $50,000, as well as whatever we can raise from the many friends we've gathered in the last few days on GoFundMe, to put a pool of money. If my father and or my twin brother don't take this offer, all that money will be returned to donors. I am fortunate enough, God has blessed me with the ability not to have to take money from anyone, but this is your chance to invest in justice. So we will offer this pool of money in exchange for one or the both of them coming into my kitchens, and as we are going to conduct this trial and answering our questions item by item, crime by crime. If it appears that I am wrong, they will get that entire pool of money, and I will publicly apologize. You know, this is about everyone here as much as it is about us. I've become very close with some of the victims' families. We are victims as well as being family members. But I believe this is a chance to do something really hopeful and inspiring. You know, humans have been taught, or I guess our society.
So, yeah. So this has gotten really weird now, asking for a GoFundMe. I do not understand the logic of the GoFundMe at all. Again, remember, he's an author. There's a lot of holes. He's really connecting his father to literally so many different random, weird, crazy cases. The fact that supposedly is this twin brother that his father is traveling with who has a burned up hand. There's just so much more to do to go down these rabbit holes with you and all the murders that he's talking about. I think what we should do in my next video, or at least on a live stream, we should go through them one by one and try to see what has been found. I did find a comment in one of the comment section that says his son, it's on another YouTuber's video that she went through this murder of these 19 indigenous women serial killer in Albuquerque, New Mexico that were found. Her website is called What Big Eyes. You can go and see what she has to say about all this. And she is convinced, and her video was put out in 2020. But she says that Dustin will not interview with anybody until his book is done. She does say that, but she says she's in touch with Dustin. But somebody made a comment. It says also his son Dustin has allegedly been caught in lies before by law enforcement, and some of the missing murdered women that he said his father is responsible for have actually had their killers brought to justice. Unless they have the wrong killers, more details are needed. Other people have said he's trying to fluff up his book by embellishing. The woman, her name is Amber, that was murdered, and they found her body. He's convinced that his father actually was the one to pick her up. And before I go, let's listen to that. So supposedly this woman, Amber, was murdered and was picked up by her murderer, and she was able to have a phone call that was recorded while she was in this person's car. Well, it's random and really a bizarre coincidence, but the call was from her brother, who was actually in jail at the time, or prison. And so the reason the call is recorded is because the call is coming from prison or recorded. And the call came in, or when, I don't know if it was scheduled ahead or whatever, but somehow her phone was connected to her brother who was in jail, and this call was recorded. And I have that. Let me find it real quick, and you guys can listen to that as well, because Dustin says that this is his father's voice. Oh my God, every time I think, okay, we'll stop here. And then I'm like, oh wait, there's one more. There's one more thing. There's more. I mean, literally there's more. Share screen, because I want you to hear this and see this news article. Okay. Let's watch this.
A new development tonight in the homicide case of 20-year-old Amber Tuckerow. An American man has implicated his own father in the mysterious murder. RCMP are investigating, but as Nicole Weisberg reports, they're also warning about the impact of false information.
But there are some distinct speech patterns my father uses.
Distinct speech patterns, a U.S. man says he and his family hear in the last known recording of Amber Tuckerow and her suspected killer.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
Tuckerow disappeared in 2010. Her remains were found on a rural property near Leduc 2 years later. Audio from what may have been her last phone call was released by RCMP to garner tips on the case.
Yo, we're not going in the city, are we? We're going. No, we're not. Yeah.
There's a common word used in all three, and that's going, pronounced that specific way.
The tipster says he's compared the RCMP's audio to his own recordings. CTV News is not identifying him since police have not identified his father as a suspect or even a person of interest.
Please know that we are doing nothing other than trying to help, and we wouldn't be making these claims or posting these things if we did not believe that it would do some good.
Alberta RCMP declined an interview with CTV News, but in a statement acknowledged the tipster's claim, saying investigators are reviewing the information and will take whatever investigative action deemed appropriate. The RCMP also said the same man implicated his father in a missing persons case in Banff this past December and claimed he may be linked to numerous missing persons and homicide cases in Alberta. The RCMP said it investigated the initial allegations and found many of the cases the tipster brought up had already been solved. Mounties say they are still seeking information on the case, but caution that erroneous information can have negative effects to the investigation and to the well-being of the family.
That was my baby.
The Tuckerow family told CTV News it does not wish to comment at this time. Nicole Weisberg, CTV News, Edmonton.
Here we are. And then the other murder is this Kessler cabin murders. Kessler, let me find out, because that one is really kind of crazy. And apparently he seems to think that his father is related to these murders as well. Let me see if I can find anything on those to share with you. I think it's Kessler, Kess, or cabin murders. Kessler cabin murders, yes. All right, we can check this out. So let me come back and share this Wikipedia about the Kessler cabin murders. Or the Ketty. God, okay, Kitty murders. Goodness gracious, I am losing my mind. Why would I say Kessler? Where did that come from? Anyway. The Ketty murders. The Ketty murders are an unsolved quadruple homicide which took place over the night of April 11th and 12th in 1981 in Ketty, California. The victims were Glenna Sue Sharp, daughter Tina Louise Sharp, son John Stephen Sharp, and John's friend Dana Hall Wingate. The murders took place in house number 28 of the Ketty Resort. The bodies of Sue, John, and Dana were found on the morning of April 12th by Sue's 14-year-old daughter, Sheila, who had been sleeping at a friend's house. Sue's two younger sons, Rick and Greg, as well as their friend Justin Smart, were also in the house but were unharmed. Tina was missing from the scene. Tina remained a missing person until April of 1984, when her skull and several other bones were recovered at Camp 18, California, near Feather Falls in Butte County. Multiple leads and suspects were examined in the intervening years, though no charges were filed. Several new leads were announced in the 21st century, including the discovery of a hammer in a pond in 2016, as well as announcements regarding the discovery of new DNA evidence. So, in July of 1979, Glenna Suzanne Sharp, along with her 5 children, left her home in Connecticut after separating from her abusive husband, James Sharp. She decided to relocate to Northern California, where her brother Don was residing at the time. Upon arriving in California, she began renting a small trailer formerly occupied by her brother at the Claremont Trailer Village in Quincy. The following fall, she moved to house number 28 in rural Sierra Nevada resort town of Ketty. The house was much larger than the trailer and had become available when Plumas County then Sheriff Sylvester Douglas Thomas moved out. There she resided with her 15-year-old son John, 14-year-old daughter Sheila, 12-year-old daughter Tina, and 2 younger sons Rick and Greg. On April 11th, 1981, around 11:30 a.m., Sue, Sheila, and Greg drove from the residence of their friends, the Meeks family, to pick up Rick, who was attending baseball tryouts. They happened upon John and his friend, Dana Hall Wingate, at the mouth of Canyon from Quincy to Ketty and picked them up, driving about 6 miles away to Ketty. 2 hours later, around 3:30 p.m., John and Dana hitchhiked back to Quincy, where they may have had plans to visit friends. Around this time, the two were seen in the city's downtown area. The same evening, Sheila had plans to spend the night with the Seabot family, who lived in an adjacent home, while Sue remained at home with Rick, Greg, and the boys' young friends, Justin Smart. Sheila departed the house number 28 shortly after 8 p.m., leaving her mother alone with the young children. Tina, who had been watching television at the Seabolt residence, returned home to number 28 around 9:30 p.m. after Sheila arrived at the Seabolts to spend the night. Around 7 a.m. on the morning of April 12th, Sheila returned to number 28 and discovered the dead bodies of Sue, John, and Dana in the house's living room. All three had been bound with medical tape and electrical cords. Tina was absent from the home, while the three younger children, Rick, Greg, Justin, were unharmed in an adjacent bedroom. Initial reports stated that 3 young boys had slept through the incident, though this was later contradicted. Upon discovering the scene, Sheila rushed back to the Seabolt's house, whereupon Jamie Seabolt retrieved Rick, Greg, and Justin through the bedroom window. He later admitted to having briefly entered the home through the back door to see if anyone was still alive, potentially contaminating evidence in the process. The murders of Sue, John, and Dana were notably vicious. 2 bloody knives and 1 hammer were found on the scene, and one of the knives, a steak knife, later determined to have been used in the murders, had been bent roughly 30 degrees. Blood splatter evidence from inside the house indicated the murders of Sue, John, and Dana had all taken place in the living room. Sue was discovered lying on her side. Okay, so near the living room sofa, nude from the waist down, and gagged with a blue bandana and her own underwear, which had been secured with tape. She had been stabbed in the chest. Her throat was stabbed horizontally, the wound going through her larynx and her nicking her spine. On the side of her head was an imprint matching the butt of a Daisy 8.8 Powerline BB pellet rifle. John's throat was slashed. Dana had multiple head injuries. Okay, I just want to kind of scope down. We can go over this more in detail later. Sheila and the Seabolt family, with whom Sheila had spent the night the evening neighboring home, heard no commotion during the night. A couple living in nearby house number 16 was awakened at 1:50 a.m. what sounded like muffled screaming. Tina's jacket, shoes, and toolbox containing various tools were missing from the house, which showed no indication of forced entry. The house's telephone had been taken off the hook. The cord. All right, you guys, I'm going to pause for 1 second and leave you here. My throat is super dry. I need to take a sip of water, and my water is empty. Be right. Tina's jacket, shoes, and toolbox containing various tools were missing from the house, which showed no indication of forced entry. The house's telephone had been taken off the hook and the cord cut out from the outlet, and the drapes were closed. Martin Smart, a neighbor and main suspect, claimed that a claw hammer had been inexplicably gone and missing from his home. Plymouth County Sheriff Sylvester Thomas, who presided over the case, later stated that Martin had provided endless clues in the case that seemed to throw the suspicion away from him. In addition to interviewing the Smarts, detectives interviewed numerous other locals and neighbors. Several, including members of the Seabolt family, recalled seeing a green van parked at the Sharps' house around 9 p.m. Justin gave conflicting stories of the evening, including that he had dreamed details of the murders, though he later claimed to have actually witnessed them. In his later account of events told under hypnosis, he claimed to have awoken to sounds coming from the living room while asleep in the bedroom with Rick and Greg. Investigating these sounds, he saw Sue with 2 men, one with a mustache and shorter hair, the other clean-shaven with long hair. Both wore glasses. According to Justin, John, and Dana, they then entered the home and began heatedly arguing with the men. A fight ensued, after which Tina entered the room and was taken out the cabin's back door by one of the men. Okay, so this was a suspect, and he supposedly was under hypnosis, and he saw all this, I guess. Based on Justin's description, composite sketches of the 2 unknown men were produced by the Harlan Embry, a man with no artistic ability and no training in forensic sketching. It was never explained why, with access to the Justice Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation's top forensic artist, law enforcement chose to use an amateur who sometimes volunteered to help local police in press release accompanying the sketches. The suspects were described as being in their late 20s to early 30s. One stood 5'11" to 6'2". Rumors regarding the crimes began ritualistic or motivated by drug trafficking were dismissed by Plymouth County Sheriff Doug Thomas, who stated the week following the murders that no drug paraphernalia or illegal drugs were found in the home. Carla McMullen, a family acquaintance, later told detectives that Dana Wingate had recently stolen an unknown quantity of LSD from local drug dealers, though she was unable to provide proof of this claim. About 4,000 man-hours were spent working the case, which Thomas described as frustrating. In December of 1983, detectives ruled out serial killers Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole as potential suspects. So in a 2008 documentary on the murders, which I need to go watch, Marilyn Smart claimed that she suspected her husband Martin and his friend John Bobade, erroneously reported as John Bodie by Arthur Robert Scott, were responsible for the murders. Marilyn claimed that on the evening of April 11th, 1981, she had left Martin and Boubedi at a local bar around 11 p.m. and returned home to go to sleep. Around 2 a.m. on April 12th, she awoke to find the two burning unknown item on the wood stove. Additionally, she alleged that Martin hated Johnny Sharp with a passion. However, in the 2008 documentary, Sheriff Doug Thomas said he personally interviewed Martin and that he had passed a polygraph. So on March 24th, 2016, a hammer matching the description of the hammer Martin claimed to have lost was discovered by a local pond and taken into evidence. Plymouth County Sheriff Hagwood, who was 16 years old at the time of the murder, and taken into evidence. Mike Gamberg, Plymouth County Sheriff Hayward, who was 16 years old at the time of the murders and knew the Sharp family personally, stated the location was found. It would have been intentionally put there and would not have been accidentally misplaced. Gamberg also stated that at the time, 6 potential suspects were being examined. In April of 2018, so only a couple of years ago, Gamberg stated that DNA evidence recovered from a piece of tape at the crime scene matched that of a known living suspect. So, who is that? So, where do we go with this whole thing? Do we believe Dustin? Do we give it time? Is this a publicity stunt? Is all of these crazy murders that he's talking about, are they all related to his father, a meth head, and was his wonderful mother, who he talked so fondly about, suddenly now that she's passed away, an arsonist? I have so many questions, but we're going to end there, and we will definitely revisit this if you guys want to. So that's it for now, and thank you for watching my little bit of a jacked up throw one at you video, but I really wanted to just talk about this because it's really bugging me, and I don't have time to go put, through go piece by piece at this moment. I will do that eventually if there's enough interest in this topic. Let me know, leave a comment. If you're new here, please subscribe. I need you to subscribe to my channel because that's what makes my channel move forward and continue to succeed. So thank you so much. My name is Kathryn. Thank you for watching Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. Stay safe, be well. Bye-bye.